What happened to Finn was, it was the worst night of my life. One night on the 5th of October 2016, we were on duty and we ended up chasing a robbery suspect through the streets. Finn bravely put himself in the way of that attack and saved my life. Finn ended up having a 4 hours of surgery where they removed two sections of lung because he had stab wounds in his lungs. After Finn's surgery, he spent 3 days in the vet. I spent most of those 3 days in the waiting room trying to catch a glimpse of him and spend some time with him. To see my best friend go through that, we'd lived together, worked together, spent more time with Finn than I did with any of my family, and he eventually came home 3 days later, and I set up a bed here in the living room with Finn for the next 4 weeks. Helped him through his physical recovery, but of course he was helping me through my mental recovery. He was very withdrawn for the first couple of weeks. He must have been in a huge amount of pain. He was on pain medication as well. But in the weeks after that, you really noticed him start to pick up. He went and grabbed his tennis ball and threw it at me, and it was at that point that I knew that he really wanted to get up and get on and potentially go back to work. On guidance from the vet, we started to slowly build up his exercise, and then we started back some of his training to see how he would take it, and he very quickly showed that he wanted to get on, move on, get back into work. If at any point he'd have shown signs of not wanting to do it or was shied away from any exercise, then I would have retired him there and then. Finn and I were back out on the street 11 weeks and 1 day after nearly potentially losing our lives. I owe Finn a huge amount, not only from that night, but carrying on from there. I say to people, not only did he save me that night, but then he continued to save me after that. Companion dogs or dogs that are trained in therapy help people through some of life's difficulties. They really are fantastic at recognising that something's not quite right with you, or that you're struggling. To get that notification that the Queen stayed up late one night and signed off on Finn's law was the best news ever. Absolutely incredible. We hope Finn's law is never used, but to know that now if something like this was to happen again, the suspect will potentially face some form of punishment. It gives us all just a little bit of peace of mind, and I know that it will give the nation, the amazing supporters we've had, the thousands and thousands of supporters, I know it will give them some peace of mind, knowing that these dogs will now be going out onto the street with their own law. And so I hope that police dogs have a very long service in British policing, because they are phenomenal. It's a way to judge a nation on just how they treat their animals, and how they look after them, and how they protect them in any way they can. And I think the Animal Welfare Act is a fantastic piece of legislation, and we're so proud now that Finn's law sits within that piece of legislation.